Hello, Michael Swain here after Kansas basketball's 83-82 loss on the road at Kansas State, and another KU conference game and another weird game all around. It's hard to pinpoint what the exact story is. I think there's a lot of different things that go into a game that goes to overtime, sees KU overcome a 14-point deficit, sees a player score the third most points in a single game in Bill Self's era, and it all comes out to a Kansas loss, their first of conference play. I think Jalen Wilson's probably where we'll start off because he was just incredible. You look at the first half, it looked like he had looked in recent weeks where it's some inefficient shots, not really knocking down at the same clip that he did early in the season. And then halftime comes, and at that point KU would cut the deficit down to about 5 points, and then in the second half and overtime, he just took over, and it looked like the player I think you saw from early in the season, right? The Duke game when KU went to battle for Atlantis, the player that knocks down shots, gets to the rim, gets fouled, gets the free throw line and knocks down shots. I mean, I've got my piece of paper here. There's so much to talk about. I mean, you look at Wilson, right? 26 points on 7 of 12 shooting, and that's in overtime in the second half total. Usually that's what you'd expect out of a whole game, and a really good game from Jalen Wilson. The fact that he did it in 25 minutes is impressive, and I think that leads me into the next point, which is he also did it when KU was down 3 rotation players, 3 starters who all foul out. Kevin McCullough was the first. A really poor game from him. He's really struggled, I think, the last week or two, really since KU went to Texas Tech. He scored some points, but I think the consistency maybe hasn't been there. KJ Adams was the next to foul out. I think that's a product of KU just not having much on the bench. Zuby Ejiofor came in, didn't really offer a whole lot, and I think it's still at a point in time where maybe the game is a little fast for him. Zach Clements came in, offered you a little bit, but just still defensively not the best, and as a result, KJ Adams has to play a lot. And K-State's a physical team. They're going to get inside, and with the way this game was officiated, there were a lot of fouls called. And I don't know if KJ Adams, if he got his worth for all 5 fouls, but that's just how this game was officiated. We'll talk about that later. And then Grady Dick was the most recent one to foul out. And I think he's someone that kind of struggled, right? Marquise Noel was the one guarding him for most of the game. A little bit smaller. I was a little bit surprised maybe KU didn't look to get Grady the ball in the post a little bit more. He hasn't done that a ton, but has been okay in the limited times. And he seemed a little hesitant to shoot at times with Marquise Noel on him. In the end, he grinds his way to another double-digit performance. But down the stretch, you're looking at KU then playing Bobby Pettiford, Joseph Yesufu, and Zach Clements. And as Bill Self said post-game, those are guys that just don't have the experience in these moments yet. And whether a game like this will help them in the long run, I don't know. But in this certain situation, it put KU behind the 8 ball. And in the times where KU needed to execute, they really didn't. And that is weird to say about a Kansas team that has been so good under Bill Self in these kind of 2 possessions or fewer games under 5 minutes. They've won so many more than they've lost, and this is a game where just execution-wise, Kansas didn't have it. You look at the end of regulation, KU turning it over, getting lucky that there wasn't a game-winning bucket on the other end, and then you go to the final possession in overtime, and Bobby Pettiford has Jalen Wilson open on the block and decides to make the pass to DeJuan Harris on the perimeter, who then turns it over. It's just one of these games where so much, I think, compounded, and heading into the game, if you had said, hey, you're going to have the opportunity to attempt 2 potential game-winning shots with Joseph Yesufu, Bobby Pettiford, and Zach Clements on the floor, and other 3 starters fouled out, you would take that. Especially in an environment like this. Brandon Lynch Coliseum was rocking today. K-State's a good team, and I think you'd take that. And it just, KU came out on the wrong side. And I think you can look at the shooting numbers too. 6 of 29 from 3. The most misses KU's had from 3 in a single game this season. It's second only in terms of percentage to the Duke game at that funky arena in Indianapolis. So just a poor performance shooting the ball wise from KU. Jalen Wilson really muscled his way for KU to be in this game, and now the Jayhawks have their first loss, and now it's about the response. You look at the upcoming schedule, it's pretty daunting. You play TCU at home, then you go to Baylor on Big Monday, then there's the Big 12 SEC Challenge, then you go in the back half of the schedule, and it's going to be tough. There are a lot more tough games, but we've seen how KU responded to a tough game after Battle for Atlantis. They came back and dominated. The competition probably helps a little bit, but they were a team that really built confidence during this winning streak, and now all that's important is building another winning streak and making sure that a game like this doesn't compound. I think there's confidence that something like this will happen, but the officiating needs to be addressed. I just back-to-back games now where this is a topic post-game, and I don't like talking about it because officiating isn't fun. And you look at the Iowa State game in the second half, more fouls than there were minutes played. You look at an entire game with overtime, there were 49 fouls called. That's just ridiculous. This is a physical league. Let the players be physical. I don't think there were a ton of hard fouls that really required it. I think it was a lot of ticky-tacky stuff that you can kind of let play in a physical rivalry game like this. So that's something that I hope will be addressed in terms of the back half of the conference slate, because this isn't sustainable, having plays like this and players foul out with frequency that they are. So those are my thoughts. Obviously, we've got plenty of coverage up on fog.net. If you've been enjoying these videos, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, we'll have all sorts of more basketball coverage and some football stuff heading your way on fog.net this week.